using strategies. And a lot of the strategies you'll see are not necessarily new strategies. It's really how you implement them and the intention with which you use them that make them MI consistent or not. So it's using strategies in an MI consistent way to really focus on in the interaction, increasing clients talking about changing and reducing their talking about not changing or staying the way they are. Okay, so that's kind of the basic definition and the components of MI. It's important for us to recognize some things that motivational interviewing is not in relation to that as well. And I've seen many over my years of clinical practice, supervision, training. I've seen many of these assumptions being made about motivational interviewing. And you have them on the screen, so I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll point out a couple of them first and foremost. I think one common one is because they came on the scene at relatively a misjudgment, for lack of a better word, about that situation. Whereas from an MI perspective, genuinely digging in there and getting a sense that, okay, the person chose to come there. They may not have felt like they had a choice. They may feel forced from the court or from somebody else who's mandated them to be there. But part of what I want to do is really dig in with them to get a sense of why they're here, or what their motivating factors are. What are their goals? What are their values? And how do those goals and values, how consistent are they or inconsistent are they with their behavior? I'll give you a real brief example of this. I was supervising a case many years ago of a teenager who was referred to our clinic for anger management because he was being bullied, and finally stood up for himself, punched the kid that was bullying him, not implementing their treatment plan. But if I notice that shift, that loss of momentum, that plateau or regression in behavior, I might need to shift what I'm doing to kind of step back for a minute, maybe integrate more of my kind of MI counseling approach, or in communication, be more MI consistent, to explore what's going on and getting a sense of what's getting in the way of that person moving forward or continuing to move forward. Sorry about that. So let's talk about the first challenge is slow progress. I might have skipped that. There we go. I must have hit it twice. So slow progress. We can look at that in a lot of discussion in MI, and just the way it's phrased could, engender some pushback from the client and some of that discord. Whereas the middle sentence, the middle reply, the somewhat consistent reply, it affirms some accomplishments, right? The client could have applied to 0 jobs. The client applied to 1 out of the 5, so that's something. So it affirms that accomplishment. There's some reflection. However, the question could be perceived as subtly judgmental, and judgmental about the client's efforts, which could lead to discord, right? It's not overly confrontational or judgmental, but it could be perceived that way. So that's what kind of makes it somewhat consistent. Whereas in the